Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Friday, October 11th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Jonah Booker in just a moment. Oh, it's go time. Ohio State at Oregon tomorrow night. Jay Book and I are going to give our predictions. We're going to analyze this game, and we're going to answer some of your questions. A little bit of everything on the show today. Can't wait for this game tomorrow night, as I'm sure all of you are in that exact same boat. And we'll let you guys know about Factor meals and a great deal you guys can get. Sweater weather pairs perfectly with savory fall foods, but with your busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to eat the way you'd like to. That's where Factor comes in. Their chefs do the shopping and the chopping to bring you fresh, never frozen, fully cooked meals right to your doorstep. All you have to do is heat and eat. All of their meals are dietitian approved, so you know you're getting the nutrition you need along with the fall flavors you crave. Head to factormeals.com/bucknuts50. Use code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. It's really good stuff. I highly recommend it to you guys. Of course, I don't need to tell you this. I highly recommend J-Book to you guys. Good to see you on a Friday, as always, my friend, especially this one.
I know it. I'm out here at the beach in California, kids on fall break, and there's no way I was going to miss this show, Dave. They would have to pull me off my deathbed to miss the Bucknuts Morning Five, especially against Oregon.
All right, let's just we're not ones to mess around here. All right, let's just get down to brass tacks. I'll put my score up first, and then or do you want to say your score?
Yeah, I'll say my score and you say yours.
All right, you say your score. I have mine already typed in. So you say your score, then I'll post mine.
All right, I got the Buckeyes 28, Oregon 20.
Ooh. I'm not too far off. I'm a little more optimistic than you. You have 28-20? Either way will be good. I have 35-17 Ohio State.
Okay, 35 points. Let's go. I
know it seems optimistic. Something tells me Ohio State's going to take care of business. It's not going to be a blowout, but it's going to be a comfortable win in my opinion. Although either one I'll be okay with.
I'm feeling pretty confident about this game, Dave. I've been crunching the numbers. I've been going over everything, looking at both teams. And I think Ohio State, here's my magic number, 150, Dave. If the Buckeyes can run for 150 yards, I feel very confident that this game will be going in the right direction here. Vegas right now, when you're looking at the prop bets, and I know you guys in Ohio can do the prop bets, the combo rushing yards for Henderson and Junkins is at 120 yards right now. If Ohio State can get to 150, Dave, I think that they should be able to run away with this game. There's going to be a lot of question marks as far as Oregon's front, as far as their offense and defensive line. And I think that if Ohio State can get in there, run that football, 150 is going to be the magic number.
Yeah, it almost feels like, I did a hit on 24/7 talking about this, and I think they're putting it on HQ as well, that it almost feels like an Ohio State-Michigan game where whoever wins the rushing battle, what you're just articulating, whoever wins the rushing battle is going to win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. There are different metrics that's going to be key here. Especially the red zone. The red zone scoring is going to be something that's going to be critical here. Ohio State's ranked number 1 in the college football and red zone scoring at 100%. When you look at Oregon, they're 120th, Dave, out of 134 teams in college football. So red zone scoring has been a place where they've really struggled over the last several weeks. Now, we've watched Jim Knowles here over the last couple games. They played some of that soft coverage. DB's been off. A lot of people have been complaining. I truly believe that Jim Knowles is going to make Dillon Gabriel and Oregon be methodical, be patient, and take what they can get. Can they do that? Because Dillon Gabriel's, he's somewhat of a riverboat gambler. Will he be patient? And then once they get into the red zone, how will Jim Knowles' defense hold up? They've done a really good job so far this season. They've only allowed one pass play over 30 yards this season, which if you're Oregon, their key is they want to get the ball into space to those wide receivers, and they want to be able to make somebody miss and reel off chunk plays. if that defense can hold in the red zone and force them into field goals, it could be a long night for them.
You and Doreen almost have the exact same score. That's usually you and me. Now I get, she's encroaching on my territory here. Like, yeah, it's usually J Book and I that have the exact same score. No, that's pretty cool. Asian Posh Doreen has 28-21 Buckeyes. My friends, I don't care if Ohio State wins by 1. Just get a W. Something just tells me, there's going to be nervous moments in the first half, and Ohio State's just going to pull away in the second half. Again, it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be tight in the first half, but something tells me Ohio State's going to pull away. I just feel like they're the better team on both sides of the ball. And Oregon, while they've played better of late, still I can't get some of their early. And I knew things happen early in a football season, but they just weren't as impressive as I expected the couple games that I saw them play. And I didn't think they were that good against Michigan State either.
No, they are vulnerable. I mean, when you look at some of their spots, Dave, the key that you're going to have to keep an eye on is Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams against their center guard. Because if you look at PFS right now, their right guard struggling. He's grading out at a 52.9 overall throughout the season. Their center, he's okay, ranked 116th out of all the centers in college football. And then the guards around 103rd. So they have an opportunity to really collapse that pocket against that Oregon front. Now, when you flip it to the other side, the key that I think Ohio State can take advantage of is their second corner, Nico Reed. He has struggled. He's graded out in the 50s over the last several weeks in coverage. And I think it's Jeff Schwartz, one of the guys that is an Oregon alum, played in the NFL, had commented to one of my tweets this week. He said, if Ohio State goes after Reed and make him the fish, there's not a whole lot that they're going to be able to do to contain Egbuka and Henderson and Judkins and Jeremiah Smith. So I think that's going to be critical. Find that fish, as Urban Meyer used to say. And I think Nico Reed is the fish over there because Muhammad, the other corner, he's pretty solid. The other avenue too, Dave, their linebackers have really struggled covering in space. They've been targeted 16 times. They've given up 12 catches. So could this be a game where you see Henderson and Judkins utilizing the passing attack? And if so, I think that could be a matchup to exploit here. But I think it all starts and finish up front in the trenches. The other thing that could be huge for them, Dave, and the Oregon 24/7 site, and a lot of smoke has been going around, their star defensive end, Jordan Birch, supposedly was carted off the field this week. And prayers up to him because you never want to see any kids hurt. You always want to see kids healthy playing at their highest level. So their side has been reporting that Birch is hurt. He may give it a go. And I'll give him credit, if he goes out there and gut it out, Dave, then hey, tip of the cap, kid, you're giving it your all. But if he is on the field, Dave, this is the time that you take it to him. He's not going to be 100%. You go right at Jordan Birch and prove that he can play at a high level, especially if he's banged up. Because if so, that could be a liability. And he's one of their top guys, 6'6", almost 300-pound guy who's probably going to be playing on Sundays.
Man, that would be a huge loss for them because he's defensive tackle size with good edge rushing skills.
Correct.
He's like 6'6", 295 because they're D tackles. They got a couple of 325-pound, 330-pound dudes in there at D tackle, and he's already got 5 sacks this year, Birch. Man, that would be a massive loss for them.
Yeah, that's a big loss. And so they're saying that it happened in practice here. Now, if you're getting carted off the field here, Dave, there's no way that even if this kid suits up, he's going to be 100%. So that's why I'm very adamant. Test him out to see what he can do. On the Ohio State side, the biggest question mark to me is how will Josh Fryer hold up? How would he hold up in this game? Because I think this is a game here. They're going to try to test him out. You look at that left side of the offensive line, they've been playing some outstanding football. Seth McLaughlin, he is playing. If Seth keep this up, Dave, he's going to be on the short list for the Remington. He's right there knocking on the door of All-American type of level at your center position. So I feel really good about that from McLaughlin to the left side. Tegra and Fryer, that's the biggest question mark on the Ohio State side. How will those guys hold up? And if Birch is hurt, then you really have to start to lead into this Ohio State offensive line, potentially having a very dominant day.
You read my mind there. I had written down Tegra / Fryer. One of the things I was going to ask you about. You hit that. I want to go back to Oregon secondary for a moment. As you mentioned, I think you found the fish. I love that term, by the way. Urban. I think Urban made it famous. I believe he created it too. Maybe he stole it from somebody, but I love that. Another thing I noticed, I believe all of they're actually pretty veteran, even though most of those guys are transfers, but they're like they're like, I think most of them are seniors, but they're pretty short. I think all of their DBs are 5'10".
Yeah, they're smaller. They're definitely smaller DBs. So that's going to be something like go deep. I mean, you look at Kobe Savage. Kobe Savage that's their safety. He's 5'11", 205 senior. He hasn't played that great either. And when you look at Kobe Savage, he has really struggled tackling. He's grading out at a 58.5 when it comes to tackling. So if you get one-on-one with him on the back end with Henderson or Junkins, it could be trumpets up in the air. The band could be playing the fight song with the tackling. And that's the one thing that I've been really surprised about when it comes to Dan Lanning, because he's usually pretty fundamentally sound when it comes to the tackling. Seeing the way that those guys have been grading out over the last week. I mean, I mentioned Nico Reed. Nico Reed, he was like a 20% tackler against Michigan State. I saw a lot of business decisions being made against Michigan State with Nico Reed. That's the one thing you can say about the Ohio State secondary. They tackle extremely well. So when you're playing a little bit off with that soft coverage there, you have to be able to tackle in space. You have to be fundamentally sound to where you're eliminating those big plays. You've seen that so far from Ohio State. Now, the Oregon people are going to gaslight you about the Genty, the running back from Boise State, how he ran for over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns against them. But they're going to say, oh, look, he had, 10 to 12 carries where he was getting 3 yards or less, and then he broke off some of those runs. Like, okay, but those runs happen. They still gave up over 200 rushing yards to Boise State. Now, Dave, here's the thing for me. The other equalizer is Will Howard. Can't turn over the football. In this type of environment, you have to be able to protect the football and pick up those short yardage. That's my only qualms with them is, okay, get those 4th and 1s and take care of the football, especially in the red zone, because we saw Will Howard be just a tiny bit reckless with that football. Some of those deep shots, I'm okay with that. But there are instances where he should have been picked off that the defensive backs dropped the football.
I was going to ask you about his acumen throwing the football down the field. Will Howard, he says he can do it. The coach says he does it in practice. We have not seen it in games yet. Fred on Facebook's just cuts to the chase. He says Will cannot go deep. Is this the week he changes that narrative?
We're going to see, but I think you're definitely going to have to take your shots. If you're Oregon right now and you know that, hey, Ohio State, they're going to try to come in here and bully us, you're going to try to crowd that line of scrimmage there. Because if you throw on the tape, there's not a lot of tape that says Will Howard can hit those deep shots. So if you're a defensive coordinator and you're going up against this Ohio State offense, you're saying, hey, listen, let's crowd the box, try to limit Henderson and Junkins on the run, and then at that point, make Will Howard beat us over top with his arm. If he can do that, then, hey, you give him the tip of the cat and say, you made a good play. But until then, I have a feeling that they're going to try to crowd that box to try to slow down the run. At that point, then Chip Kelly's going to have to pivot. He's going to have to see what he can do to shake those DBs loose off the wide receivers. That's where I think the RPO game can really come into effect. Jeremiah Smith one-on-one out there. And I hark back to Nico Reed. Find out where he's at and go at him all night long.
That's right. Find the fish and pressure Dylan Gabriel. Running is not, I mean, some people might think of him as like he is a dual threat, but he doesn't make his money running. He makes his money passing. He can be a runner. I'm sure Oregon's going to mix that in, but you don't want to take too many hits against this Ohio State defense. It seems like every week they're knocking quarterbacks out of the game. Maybe because they do every week knock quarterbacks out of the game. He's not a big guy. He's listed at 6 foot. I'll be surprised if he's actually 6 foot at the combine. I know I'm not breaking news here to you. They have to get pressure on Dylan Gabriel. Not necessarily sacks, although those would be great, but make him uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dylan Gabriel is someone who can be explosive. He can make you pay with his legs, but there's a lot of empty calories in his stats, Dave. You look at it, 80% completion percentage, throwing the ball for 300 yards, but you're chucking it up 45, 50 times a game to get those type of stats. What does that mean? It means that a lot of their throws are 10 yards or less. There's a lot of empty calories when it comes to his stat padding there, especially that 80% completion percentage that you're seeing, because it's a lot of quick throws, getting the ball out the hand, relying on your wide receivers to make a play one-on-one against the defensive backs. And if they're able to do that, that's when Oregon's offense at its best. I don't think they're going to let him sit back there, Dave, and go in a deep drop, which that's Ohio State's forte. Teams have hurt Ohio State when the quarterback's been able to get the ball out of their hands quickly, so you don't let those defensive ends tee off on you.
We have much more to get to, but before we do that, I'll let you guys know about Goodr sunglasses, a great deal you guys can get, and you can support the show. All good things there. You guys know I love Goodr sunglasses. I got some right here. My Operation Blackouts that I love so much. Those are my go-to. Just $25 a pair. No slip, no bounce. All polarized, all fun. Many reasons to love Goodr. 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. If you want to support the show and try a pair, Goodr is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. You can go to goodr.com/Bucknuts, use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Goodr offers 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's goodr.com/Bucknuts and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. I know we have a lot of women out there too. I've said this before. They have the Amelia Earhart Ghosted Me as their best-selling women's sunglasses. So, hey, grab a pair of those. Grab a couple pair.
Dave, I would say I think we had a comments over here about their tight end from Terry Slusher. That's a great point. Terrence Ferguson, their tight end, he's a really good football player. That is something to keep an eye on because he can be a difference maker for them. The one thing that they can exploit is putting those linebackers in space against Ferguson. How will you match up here? The big key for me here, Dave, I think this is a Jordan Hancock type of game. I think with their offense, they're going to try to spread you out. I think this is where you have the equalizer in Jordan Hancock, who's going to be able to play in that slot position. Jordan Hancock, he didn't get a lot of snaps against Iowa. I mean, because they were playing 3 linebackers at times going against that Iowa run defense. But this is the type of game where he can really shine.
What are your thoughts on this? Because there was some talk even in a group chat that you and I were a part of about this. Big John on YouTube. He says, I don't like how Josh Fryer has been attacked because of what he said was taken out of context. For those that didn't hear Josh Fryer, we were over there the other day. I was at a different table. I didn't hear him say it. Apparently he said something. I'm paraphrasing. So elaborate if I get this wrong, or correct me if I get this wrong. But he said something to the effect of he doesn't like playing in these big games because if he messes up, then everybody knows it and he gets a lot lot of flack. I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. Is that basically what he said? And do you agree? Was it taken out of context?
He said I think what he was trying to convey, and he kind of stumbled on his words there. He was trying to say in his previous years at Ohio State, he hated the big games. he didn't like the spotlights because if you messed up, the announcers and everybody who's watching that game knew that you were the one who messed up. Now, as he's a senior and he's a veteran, he's kind of gotten used to it. So it's not a big of a deal to him as it used to be. So I do think I went back and listened to his words, and I do think that he was trying to say, hey, back in the days, I used to be afraid of these games. Now I'm okay with it. But Josh is not the most media savvy guy. I mean, the last time he spoke to the media, he was saying that years past, the practices weren't hard. Now this year, when he comes off the field, he's absolutely tired. So I think Josh tries to say, hey, this is the difference now compared to what it used to be. And he just kind of stumbles upon his words sometimes when he talks to the media. But hey, let's go, Josh Fryer. Have yourself a day, man. And I want to see. Hey, go out there and lay somebody out and have one of those games to where you're in the spotlight, you're on the big stage, and let the announcers say, hey, look at Josh Fryer out there moving people. Let's go, man.
That's damn right. We're all behind you, Josh Fryer. I'm sure he's a loyal listener to the show, right? He's a big boy. He's a fifth-year senior. Heck of a nice kid. Like, he's a young man. He's not really a kid anymore, and he even looks like he's like about 30 years old. But yeah, you're right. He's not very media savvy, but he's a heck of a good young man. So yeah, we're all behind you, Josh Fryer. Come on, both Joshes on the bookend. Joshes. Josh Simmons is having a good year. Donovan Jackson's having a good year. Seth, as you mentioned, looks like the best center in the country. Not that I've really broken down every center in the country, but give me Seth McLaughlin. I love what he's brought. And that right side, let's go Tegra. I like J-Book that last week they finally just made Tegra the right guard.
Yeah.
It wasn't the shuffling in and out. I do like that.
Yeah. I do like that. I thought Tegra played really well against Iowa. Now, you look at that Iowa front, they were able to reel off over 5 yards per carry, rush for 200 yards against a very stout Iowa defense. Can they do it against Oregon? That's why I'm really high of that 150 mark. That 120 mark, Dave, you better believe today I'm going to lay some sweet cash on the combination of Junkins and Henderson rushing for 120 yards per game. Now, I think Will Howard's passing prop is around 248, 246 or something like that. That one's going to be interesting because if you get Will Howard up to 250, Dave, that means these wide receivers are going off. It's going to help a ton that Carnell Tate is back, especially with the perimeter blocking, because Carnell Tate has done an outstanding job blocking on the perimeter this year. So getting him back is going to be a big boom there. And talking about last week, I thought Brandon Ennis played really well subbing in for Carnell Tate. I thought he made some nice catches there, so it was good to see him get in the mix. But yeah, Dave, I think this game right here, it lives and dies on the trenches. And I'll say this, Ryan Day has no choice, Dave, but to put belt to butt to Dan Lanning when they go out there. This is going to be a massive recruiting weekend for Oregon. There's a lot of targets that Ohio State's going after. Not even Offers supposed to be out there. Jakeem Store's going to be out there. So a lot of guys that the Buckeyes have been targeting. Brew's going to be out there. You see some of these guys that's decided to spurn the Buckeyes, they're going to be out there watching this game. So there's no better time to roll into their place and truck those boys in front of all of those recruits and then circle back and say, you sure you don't want to be a Buckeye? Hey, come on down here for this Nebraska game and come take a visit, Trey McNutt.
Exactly. We'll get you out of here on this. You touched on this a little bit, talking about Jordan Hancock, but just overall, we have Brad on Facebook saying, J-Buck, how do you feel about our DBs against Oregon's wide receivers? Watching them makes me nervous. If you don't mind, also get back into maybe talking about the Ohio State's linebackers and how big of a game this is. Obviously, with the tight end they have for Oregon. So just your thoughts on Brad's question here, and then also talk about the linebackers a little bit, how they have to step up for the Buckeyes.
So the key for me is Tez Johnson. their star wide receiver who usually plays in a slot. That's why I said I think this is going to be a critical game for Jordan Hancock because he's going to be locked up against Johnson. Evan Stewart, the kid who transferred there from Texas A&M, he hasn't really made the difference that they were hoping for a five-star wide receiver that transferred. But you also have to keep in mind their wide receiver, Trayshawn Holden. He's an absolute stud as well. Will be playing in the NFL. He's a big outside body at 6'3", 205. So he's a kid that's going to be matched up against Igbinosun. So this is going to be a game where Davison Igbinosun will have to raise his game up because this will probably be the best wide receivers that Ohio State faces this season. Their wide receiver core, they are absolutely dynamic with the football in their hand. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of times where Dillon Gabriel, he's trying to get that football out of his hands immediately. And where teams mess up against them is allowing those guys to get chunk plays because you're not form tackling. When they get the ball on those 6-yard swing routes, 5-yard hitches, things of that nature that they like to do, you got to be able to tackle in space. So that's critical. Flipping it to the linebackers, Styles and Cody Simon. This is going to be a big game here for Sonny Styles, Dave, because Sonny Styles, I thought, had his best game against Iowa. Coming downhill, I thought he played with some intensity, some toughness, and he was filling those gaps. Where we saw Sonny Styles kind of struggle, Dave, was a team like Michigan State that forced him to play sideline to sideline. Oregon's going to give him a lot of eye candy. They're going to send a lot of motion back and forth to try to confuse him. They're going to try to make him go from sideline to sideline. Sonny's going to have to be disciplined with his eyes because they do have an outstanding running back. Jordan James, he is an absolute stud. So they're going to try to fool Sonny here. So he's going to have to be able to stay home, stay disciplined, and then having to balance out, making sure that Jordan James doesn't go off because they do have that tight end who can be an absolute difference maker. So linebackers on the defensive side, for us, Dave, that's probably my biggest worry is how the linebackers will play in this type of game here. But I still feel confident, Dave, that the Buckeyes will get out of there with that win. I'm sticking to my 28-20. And hopefully it's more closer to your score.
That's a 28-20. Like I said, I'll take a Buckeye win by 1. Although I'd like a comfortable victory. So we're sitting there just like, relaxing in the fourth quarter. Relaxing in the fourth quarter as we wait for what we learned live to begin right after the game. And J-Buck, I have it through sources. You're going to join me for tomorrow's show.
I'll be on tomorrow.
Yes.
Post game, I'll be on there.
J-Buck, not from a light rail to Sun Devil Stadium, right?
I know it. And let me tell you, dude, that game was an absolute swamp, man. It was like 107 at kickoff day. Dude, I get in there, I'm sweating, man. We had like lower bowl seats and the humidity just like trapped in there. But it actually turned out to be a great game. It was a battle all the way down to the very end. And Kansas lost. Arizona State, they're actually having a fairly decent season, 4-1 on the season. I think they got Utah tonight coming up, man. But dude, that game was hot. Thanks for bearing with me to that game. I was like, Dave, I might be on the train when we're not on the show.
That was kind of funny. But like, yeah, I mean, and I know it's not actually called Sun Devil Stadium anymore. I don't care. That place is always going to be special to me and every Buckeye fan. The 2002 national championship. Then they go back the next year, beat Kansas State. Speaking of Kansas, teams from Kansas, they beat Kansas State in the Fiesta Bowl. Then they go back 2 years after that, beat Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. Then they moved the game to Glendale. Yeah. Damn it. Anyway, I love Sun Devil. I'm glad you're going to be joining me on the show tomorrow, my friend.
Let me ask you this before we get off. And I want your take on this. Joe Klatt, did you hear what he said yesterday about Ohio State? So Joe Klatt of Fox said, if the Buckeyes get past Oregon and Nebraska, Penn State gets past USC, he thinks that there's a very good opportunity that Georgia could slip up along the way to Texas or somebody that's coming up, which at that point, it will be a 1 versus 2 Ohio State at Penn State. What do He's like the biggest game in the history of Penn State Stadium, a 1-versus-2 matchup. And he put it at, he thinks it's about a 46% chance that this can happen. It's probably, the first domino is Ohio State has to beat Oregon. And then at that point, he thinks that Georgia could slip up along the way in the next several weeks. What do you think about that? 1-versus-2, Ohio State versus Penn State.
Sign me up for it. I think I won't be surprised. I mean, I don't know. USC is no good, but I won't shock me if USC beats Penn State. But not. I mean, I'd be surprised. I guess I wouldn't be completely like floored because the game is at the Coliseum. But yeah, man, I love it. I love it. We got 2-versus-3 tomorrow night.
Yeah,
1-versus-2. Now maybe firing up the Penn State crowd a little extra. Maybe isn't the best idea, but the game's going to be at noon. Not officially yet, but at least we know it's not going to be a night game. It's probably going to be at noon.
Yeah,
that helps the cause a little bit, but it'll still be raucous over there.
I think it's going to be noon because of baseball or something, something along those schedules. Because there's no way Fox is going to miss out on that type of primetime game again. So I think baseball is going to cause that game. But a lot of people, they've been banging on Ohio State schedule day. But you look at it, the Buckeyes are going to go play on the road against the number 3 team. And then they turn around and in their next game, they'll have Nebraska, who's going to be a top 10 team or a top 15, top 20 team. And then you go to Penn State for another top 5 road match. And then lo and behold, you got Indiana. If they keep doing what they're doing, I think they're ranked 18th, 17th right now. Indiana has a chance to be a top 15 team once the Buckeyes play them the week before Michigan. So all of that whining and crying by Desmond Howard about the Buckeyes schedule, it's going to probably be one of the toughest schedules in college football because there's no other team in the country that besides Georgia who's going to be on the road playing against top 5 matchups.
Great stuff as always, my friend. Good. It's going to be good seeing you tomorrow night after the game. Can't wait for the game. Thank you very much to J-Book. Again, join us tomorrow night after the game. What we learned live. Thanks to J-Book. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Enjoy the game tomorrow, Bucknutters. Go Bucks.